Morning, it's morning huddle time. Chad Prinky here, as always, along with my good friend, producer, co-host extraordinaire, Stacey
Stop.
Holden. Stacey.
Hey, how do you want us to install this water heater? And my coworker was like, I don't know, install the water heater. Like, why are you even asking me? He's like, well, I don't know if you know, but what you designed, it can't physically fit through the front door of this building.
My class is only 40 minutes. So we have to get this done in 40 minutes. You have to clean up in 40 minutes. And then it also, when you use the miter saw, a lot of kids are scared of the miter saw, and you just see the difference in their confidence when they come in here compared to when they leave. They're excited.
Be announcing a new county that's going to join us in Maryland, so we continue to spread it. And I'll say my peers across the country are starting to take this and adopt this at their local IEC chapters.
Either AI assistant tools, you have AI master builder tools, and then you have kind of a bit of both that are 1 foot in BIM, in current processes, and 1 foot in AI.
Said, Brett, in life, opportunity meets you at your level of preparation.
She said, here's the keys, go forth and do great things.
Good morning. It is morning huddle time. Chad Prinky here alongside Stacey Holzinger. Stacey, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Yeah, doing really well. I got most recent feedback on the book. Like we're well into the dozen plus range on the pre-sales of the book, which is awesome.
Yeah,
it's a cool feeling. I don't know the exact count. It was like one weekend we'd gotten something like 18 or something like that pre-sold, and hopefully the ball keeps rolling. And thank the audience for participating and doing the pre-sales. It's always hard to like give money for a thing that you don't get for weeks, and so I know that's a big ask, and I appreciate everybody doing it.
Yeah.
The name of the book, just FYI, is Well Built. How the top 2% of construction contractors create superior value, profits, and excellence.
Yes.
What are you up to?
Well, I was going to ask you if you were talking about mental health and construction today, and they had the Tom Brady special, the big roast, and I heard that they were checking on him to make sure he's okay. That was brutal. Did you watch it?
No. So here's my experience with the roast. First off, I find roasts very awkward. I get really uncomfortable watching people be made fun of en masse. It makes me clench my teeth and raise my right. So it makes me uncomfortable altogether. And I'm on this text thread with a group of friends, and it's, aren't we all, right? And I'm on this text thread with like 18 bozos that I'm friends with. And my favorite text was right before the roast. He was like, I don't understand how it's even possible to roast this dude, so we'll see how it goes. And then at the end, he was like, wow, that was a lot of material. That was a lot,
yeah, right? They were not
sure. He was just a winner.
It was like 3 hours long, I think, the roast.
People had a lot to say.
A lot to say. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yes. I am a huge fan of roasts, and I love the roast master, Jeffrey Ross. And just a side thing. So Jeffrey Ross went live on Instagram during COVID and was roasting random fans, and he roasted our family.
Oh my God.
And so his line was, COVID must have cinched off your eyebrows.
Oh my God. Cinched off your eyebrows. And you were like, oh man.
Because I'm a natural blonde, so I have no eyebrows. And my son always loves to tell me that when I start getting tan in the summer, because they get like bleach white. So, but I got roasted on my wedding day instead of having.
You love a roast. We are on opposite sides of this. So psychologically, in 30 seconds or less, describe to me why you love a roast.
I just love good comedy, and like I think it's good to laugh. It's healthy. Like there's so many hard things in the world, and you have to be able to laugh at them.
I think that's right. I think I'm always I feel like, I don't know, people in my personal life would be like BS, but I feel like I can take a joke. I feel like I do pretty good with that personally, but I always feel like you have to be, I think, in a pretty good mental place to be able to hear somebody pick on you and think it's funny.
And it feels better when it's coming from people that really know you and love you,
Sure.
not strangers.
Sure. So it's, well, but I do love the comment on like the overall, the power of laughter, the importance of having fun and not taking stuff so darn seriously as one of the key components, I think, to mental wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really.
Really, really cool. Okay, cool. So we're gonna bring on our guest today. We're gonna talk about mental health, actually, in the construction industry. Our guests, we have 3 different people on today, all from the Associated Builders and Contractors, which is an organization I've spent a lot of time with, both as a member in a chapter and as a service provider to the national group. And I've been, very involved in a lot of their doings, and I'm very supportive of many aspects of the mission. So thank you all for being on. I'm going to introduce you one by one here, so that we can kind of the audience can get to know you. So first, we have Greg Sizemore. Greg, thank you for being here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us, Chad. This is a very important topic.
Yeah, sure is. And Greg is the Vice President of Workforce Development, Safety, Health, and Environmental at the Associated Builders and Contractors. And he is leading this effort internally with ABC, and has a team. And so on his team, we also have Haley Moyers. Thank you, Haley, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Chad. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. And Haley is the Director of Workforce Programs and Initiatives, and that has touched much. If I understand it right, Haley has the ball a lot on the mental health initiatives that ABC is trying to roll out with member companies. So looking forward to hearing about your role in more depth. And then third, we have Joe Xavier. Joe, thank you so much for being here.
Chad, thank you so much. I'm a fan of your work and look forward to reading your book.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's I'm Joe and I have known each other on and off, and sort of in personal ways through my work with ABC and his work with ABC. Before he was an employee of the Associated Builders and Contractors, Joe and I were members of the Metro Washington chapter together and got to know each other there. So it's great to see you.
Great.
Cool. All right. So let's tee up the topic overall. If we're, just give us a brief overview, Greg, if you would, of mental health in the construction industry. Just the big picture.
Well, the really big picture is we have a significant issue societally when it comes to mental illness and suicide. And as a result of that, 6 to 7 million people in America today are in the construction industry. You can't help but say that there's an overflow of those individuals and that societal impact. So at a big picture, what really started this investigation going forward, Chad, is in 2018, the Center for Disease Control came out with statistics, if you will, that indicated that year on construction projects, there were 1,008 fatalities. And what I mean by that is 1,008 people went to work and didn't come home that evening. Yeah. But that same year, there were 5,242 deaths by suicide of individuals in the construction industry. It shattered a paradigm for a lot of us that were in the industry when we really started to look at that data. So what's driving this is a commitment to try to address that like we do everything else in the construction industry, through the tools and equipment and resources that our contractors and our employees need to address the mental health issues. So it's rampant, it's generational, it's just society at large. And we are a very diverse group of individuals. We're kind of a salad bowl of America when we think about the workers in our industry today. And so by choice, they come to our industry, but they also bring very significant issues and challenges that they face every day.
Wow. I mean, those statistics are really poignant. They certainly jump off the page when you're thinking about protecting our workforce. Certainly, we have and should be putting the bulk, a ton of emphasis on the working conditions, right? The job site conditions that we create, and the companies all have a responsibility to these humans
Yeah.
to make sure that these humans go home safe to their family, right? But
Yeah.
then there's this whole other piece of the puzzle, which is I don't know. I wonder in general, I could ask this question to anybody who wants to chime in, but do we view that as much as a company responsibility, or do we view it as more of an industry wide responsibility? Like, what role should we actually play in the mental health and wellness of our workforce?
I'm sure my team has a response, and I'll yield to them in a very brief statement here. If they're our workers and we truly mean that our employees are our greatest asset, then our responsibility is provide for them, just like we do personal protective equipment, the mental health resources that they need to do their job safely, healthy, fulfilled, and ready to go home in a better condition than when they showed up that morning in a lot of instances.
Thank you. Other people want to expand on that? Joe, Haley?
Absolutely. I think that's the whole reason why we developed Total Human Health, was to address that issue, along with some workforce challenges and mental health and suicide in the workplace. So that's a great question, and we developed Total Human Health to help answer that question.
So let's talk about Total Human Health. Give us more background and depth on exactly what that means.
So Total Human Health is a new way of looking at safety in the workplace. Traditionally, safety has always been about observable safety behavior. I started my safety career in my early 20s as a compliance officer for Maryland OSHA, and it was all about observable safety behavior in unsafe conditions, which I would argue were created by people who were behaving unsafely, right? So it's all about just what's observable and what the body is doing. So Total Human Health goes way beyond that and encompasses three things. The first thing that does is we acknowledge the whole person. It's a whole person approach to safety, where we look at not just the body, but also the heart, the mind, and the soul. Secondly, it is about having a psychologically safe workplace that is inclusive and respectful of our growingly diverse workforce. And the third thing that it does, Chad, is that it really takes an honest look at distraction and impairment, and we respond with appropriate care. So those are the three things that Total Human Health is all about.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. When I hear you say it, I wonder why it hasn't been sort of said that way for years. Maybe can you describe what has changed? Why are we having this epiphany?
So for us, it started just like Greg had said. There was a report that came out in 2016, and the Construction Finance Management Association really pushed the issue and made it aware in our society, in our industry. And in 2018, our ABC National Health and Safety Committee was charged with the responsibility of coming up with what is our response to eliminating suicide in our industry. The 2016 numbers said that in construction, we had the highest rate of suicide, and it's just shocking. It's shocking to see that. So 2018, they started working on it. We got information from our members. Everything that we talk about in terms of Total Human Health comes from our members. It's not as if we're just making things up. It comes from our members. We put it together. We get some people to help us with it. Then we put it back out as a free resource, which we call Total Human Health. And it started out as a wellness program. And then I think it was around somewhere in 2021, right before I joined, they changed the name from a wellness program to Total Human Health,
right,
to better reflect and emphasize the importance of the human being in the center of it all.
Thank you. And Haley, you're really close to this work, I know. And when it all comes down to it, what are the most common mental health issues that we're seeing and that we should be looking out for?
Definitely. So, as Joe was talking about, this is not just a construction issue. It is a societal issue. Last year, the CDC reported that 3.4 million people considered taking their own lives. That number alone just shows that if it's happening in construction, it's happening everywhere. So, a lot of the common mental illness things that you'll see, especially in the construction industry, is anxiety, depression, and then finally, PTSD and trauma. So those are kind of the common ones that you'll notice. But obviously, there are a lot of other ones that people are struggling with.
And how do these things manifest? Like how should, this is where it always gets sticky, right? Like it's so easy for me to see somebody out of PPE and say, get your helmet on. Right? Get your, do these things that you absolutely need to do to protect yourself, right? Use your fall protection gear and that type of stuff. So easy to spot and police that stuff. We still don't do it perfectly, but it's a very easy thing to do. How do I say, when should I step in if I'm a I don't know, a manager who's walking a job site and I'm noticing something, how do I get engaged there in a way that's appropriate? Because I think that would
we look for in a human to see that they're struggling.
So one of the biggest things that I will say that, we want to be a caring culture, especially within the construction industry. We want people to go home safer than they came. But start to know your employees, really start to work with your workforce. And if you know them more, then you're going to start to notice, are they seeming withdrawn? Are they becoming more isolated? Are they talking about, issues with substance use that seems like it's not a healthy use of it? Is there a change in their mood? Are they agitated? If they just don't generally seem like themselves, that is probably a red flag that something's going on. And my main message that I always send to people when we're providing the suicide prevention training is it goes a long way to pull somebody aside each day and just say, hey, how are you? How are you doing today? That can make such a big difference. So I think being a caring culture within your company and just knowing your workforce and being able to see those red flags that somebody is not acting like they are. Maybe they're not performing the way they are. You can definitely tell a lot by the performance issues coming up that maybe they've never struggled with in the past.
That's really helpful to be thinking about the signals.
Mm-hmm.
And my current takeaway from what you just said is that my number one intervention strategy, if you will, should be authentic check-in. Just actually visiting with people and asking them questions and spending time with them to gauge if there's something wrong. What if I suspect something is wrong? What if through that conversation I pick up cues that I think, oh boy, this person they're not mentally well right now. What do I do? And does this change depending on the role I play? And if I'm this person's boss, if I'm this person's colleague, if this person is my boss, what do I do? And that's a lot. I know that's a big question, so I'll toss it to the group here. Maybe each of you might want to handle it, the answer out of that differently. It looks like Greg has something.
Well, it's my response is exactly what you're saying. One, we have to acknowledge that it's there. We can't put our head in the sand and say we're impervious to this. In other words, there's nothing magical that happens when a human being puts on a hard hat and says, you know what, when I left this morning, I found out my mother has dementia and I got to put her in assisted living, or my daughter just ran away, or my son's a drug addict. I mean, those things come out of that vehicle and walk across the threshold and onto projects across America. So when you begin to see these things, you have to understand that caring culture that Haley talked about is you got to be smarter about the way we go about our business. It's not just simply saying that we have an employee assistance program. It's knowing the employee assistance program's activities. So we as leaders in our industry can't just say that there's a simple solution here. One more comment about this, and I'll turn it over to the team. From an administration standpoint, our industry, we do the tactical things very, very well. Our schedules never change. Our cost is fixed. All of these things happen, and we focus on those things. But your point a moment ago, Chad, when I notice something's different out there about Stacy today, she doesn't seem to be engaged. You don't walk up to her and just, what's going on in your head?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, you have to approach that in a way that you're caring. And Stacy, listen, I've known you for a long time. I've noticed you're not hitting all eight cylinders today. Is there something going on that I can help you with? And she's probably more than likely going to say no.
Right.
Okay, and try to cover it up.
That's right.
But over time, let me just say this, that peer-to-peer interaction, one of these days she's going to come in here and say, listen, yeah, I'm really struggling with something and I need some help. And so knowing your human resources backside of this, knowing the local resources through education and resource guides like Total Human Health, as Joe said, there's a toolkit out there, those kind of things. That's what we have to do. We have to become educated far beyond our schedule, our bid books, our estimate, and we really got to begin to look at the people there.
And I'll just add on to what Greg said. You want to make sure that your leadership is engaged in that and that it starts from the top down. If your leadership is not participating in, learning the warning signs, having the appropriate education and training, then, the people below them, how are they going to start to do that? You want that influence from leadership to be there and present so that others start to notice. Again, it just all goes back to really being a caring culture. You want to care about the people that you work with.
Mm-hmm. Going back to what Greg said too, what I like about my kickboxing instructor every morning, instead of just asking us like how we're doing and you get the like, I'm fine, whatever. He's like, how are you showing up today on a scale from 1 to 10? So that and he asks that every time we see him. So it gives he knows how to navigate. He's not my manager, but if you put that in a supervisor situation, should I take it more easy on them today? They have something going on, or are they giving me a 10, So I like that question a lot.
And is there go ahead. I'm sorry, Greg.
I just want to capitalize on what you just said there, because it's that connection. Let's go back to what societal issues are all about. We have become very good at masking our emotional states.
Yes.
In other words, we go out to some social media platform, we show all of us at a party, and we post it out there for the whole world to see, looking for likes, for people to give us a thumbs up or the thumb down. And at the end of the day, we're a train wreck. Everything about us is not in the world of Facebook or Instagram. And so now we've got to make that connection. And your kickboxing example is exactly what we have to do to address, what Chad was saying. How are you today? Well, I'm fine. You're going to get a one-letter answer. It's like asking your kid, what'd you learn at school today? Nothing. Okay. Well, the reality is you spent eight hours of your life there. So it's making that connection with that open-ended question, finding a question that people get used to you saying. How are you checking in today? How's your heart today? How's your mental state today? Those are the things that employers will go, that's a question I've never been asked before. And you consistently, like Haley said, from leadership standpoint, we really will crack the nut of that stoic nature that is in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Absolutely. And just to build on that, you're absolutely right, Stacey. It's all about resilient relationships, right? Your kickboxing instructor has a relationship with you. It's more than just the fact that you're in his class, right? He cares about you. He cares about everyone in the class, right? That's what we want. We want to be able to build resilient relationships within the construction industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll share that I've known a few people in the construction industry who have taken their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
And most recently, just in the past year and a half, I've reflected on somebody who took his own life, and my interactions with him, which were probably 12 interactions over a 2-year period or something along those lines. And I noticed that one of the things I almost attributed to he's just old school. he was an irritable person. He was progressively becoming more irritable. And I know that he was talked to about being irritable as a corrective measure, right? But I don't know if there was a conversation about where that's coming from,
Right.
and I think that maybe is a part of the shift that you guys are talking about, is you see that kind of behavior, and instead of saying like, hey, that's not okay, stop it, what's going on, that type of that type of deal, actually pausing to explore. And like you, I liked what you kind of exhibited, Greg, earlier. Hey, I've known you for a long time, I'm seeing this isn't who you are,
Right.
what's going on? There's got to be something happening, man. Are you okay?
It's creating that safe place. And again, don't expect it to happen over time, Chad. And you said something at the top of the show that is really important about this. When you begin to think about that what we do to address this, everybody's going to manage this differently. I mean, we all cope in a very different way, and we try to mask and hide. So over time, when we start to develop those relationships, that's when they start to open up. I mean, again, top of the show, when you guys were talking about the roast early on, I mean, listen, you can call that whatever you want to, but that was just coordinated bullying. Let's be very clear about that.
Right.
Okay. And so at the end of the day, those individuals don't have the same threshold. What may have aggravated Stacy at her wedding roast versus what Tom Brady put up with are diametrically different of one another, depending on whose face it's coming out of, right? And so there's the reality, is we're going to try to master this as humans. What we've got to do as leaders in this industry is be tenacious about this, just like we are about maintaining an OSHA standard or putting PPE in place. We've got to go at it with the same tenacity and say, this is it. In my organization, I am concerned about your mental health. I am concerned, as Joe said, about your total human person, the person that you are. Because if you're not getting fulfilled, okay, you're going to be, checking out at some point in time. You're just doing the job, doing the task. Find out what's going on in somebody's lives. And that isn't squishy. It just does mean that you got to roll your sleeves up and ask.
Yeah. And I think, obviously there's and we could spend hours talking about just this topic alone, but there's a stigma that is connected with mental health that is not connected with physical health, right? Nobody's going to judge you because you have arthritis, but you're afraid that people are going to judge you if you're dealing with mental health issues. And I think when it comes to all the things that companies and leaders in our industry really need to grapple with is to proactively remove the stigma. How do you do that? Well, I think a part of how you do it is just be candid, right? And share your own stuff and be vulnerable yourself, right? When I think as a leader, that's something that can really help people. What I believe and what I've read on the subject, which is not nearly, I'm sure, as comprehensive as what the three of you have. But what I believe and what I've read on the subject is that people who are not okay need to find other people who have been not okay and who they truly believe can be related to on a subject. And if they have a perception that you're perfect, right? You're your perfect Instagram self. They're afraid to open up and share what they're dealing with. And I think one of the things, as scary and awkward as it can be, is for people in leadership positions to say, hey, I battled with depression, and here's how long I battled with that, and here's what that did to my life, and here are the steps I took to get well, and and I'm still struggling with X or Y or Z. And just that kind of candor, I think, can make people feel very seen.
One thing, I just provided the VitalCog suicide prevention training at one of our ABC member contractor firms, and the owner of the company was in the session, and he shared his own story, and his son and brother died by suicide.
Mm.
And a lot of those people in the room with him had no idea. And so I think sharing those stories and letting them know you're not alone. We are all dealing with something. If we're in this together and we're having open conversations and sharing those success stories of, hey, I was in a really bad place. I've done this to work on it. That is going to help somebody who is really struggling be more likely to reach out and ask for help, and maybe even go to that point of source. Hey, what worked for you? What helped you in that difficult time?
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to pause here. One of the things that makes the Morning Huddle, that I think Stacy and I love about the Morning Huddle is that we do live stream it. The large majority of our audience is, downloading it and listening to it while they're driving down the road. But for the people who are really passionate about a given topic, they can join live and they can submit questions and comments and things like that. And so I want to put out a quick call for questions and comments to the audience. Maybe there are people who'd like to find out more about resources, and maybe there are leaders who are listening to this now or who are thinking about that employee that they actually, if they're being honest, they're worried about.
Yeah.
And I know as you're talking, there are a few conversations I want to have with not my employees, but people I know. Just thinking about that. And so I really appreciate that. While we give the audience a moment to think about that stuff and submit questions and comments, I'll take a moment to thank our sponsors, the people who help to make the Morning Huddle possible and who are helping to spread the word every day. And I'll start with Sandy Spring Bank. Sandy Spring Bank is a regional bank based in the Mid-Atlantic. They do a ton of contractor banking. If you're in this region and you are not just in love with your bank, I would strongly encourage you as a contractor to reach out to Sandy Spring Bank. Next is Lawrence Law, a deep specialization in construction. Kate and her team spend a ton of time working with the small to mid-sized contractor and really have the ability to handle your day-to-day as well as your big scary legal challenges. Then there's Marsh McLennan Agency, which is a bonding and full service insurance provider. They are just top-notch group of people who truly understand how to advocate on behalf of their clients and get them the best rates and make sure that they get the max bonding capacity to help them to grow. And then lastly is Katz Abosch, which is an accounting firm also based in the Mid-Atlantic region that has a really deep contractor base. And they do more than just tax and audit. They're business partners and consultants for their clients. So with that, Stacy, what other questions do we have as we also look for questions from the audience?
Yeah, Haley touched on it just briefly. Can you talk to us about your Vital Cog program?
Absolutely. So I do want to highlight one thing, Chad, when you were talking about how you had, somebody that died by suicide and didn't really know them, only kind of an acquaintance. But it is said that for every death by suicide, 112 people are affected from that death. So it's not just the close family members, it's the people that they work with. You're talking about it 2 years later, you're thinking about it. So it is so much bigger than just you maybe know that person, So an incredible program that we have is we have the Vital Cog Suicide Prevention and Construction Industry Training through the University of Colorado Johnson Depression Center.
Nice.
Thank you. So
that's really nice.
Yes. So this was developed by Dr. Sally Spencer Thomas. And the really 3 key things that I'll point out is first, this helps somebody become an instructor in suicide prevention. So they're able to go through a day-long training where they are then equipped to provide a 2-hour educational training on suicide prevention. So the warning signs, the risks you want to look for. Second, if anybody that went through in our Associated Builders and Contractors family in the Vital Cog program, they are now instructors and they're providing that training to our member contractors and as well as our colleges and universities that are connected to us. And so they're able to provide that training in just about a year and a half. We've provided over 91 trainings and provided the education to close to 1,600 of our members. So it's really growing. There's more and more people sending in instructors. We now have 59 instructors representing 46 ABC chapters and also ABC National. And then finally, the last thing I'll point on is after becoming an instructor, we ended up developing the mental health champion peer group. So once a month, we have a call for our mental health champions. So that's anybody that went through and became an instructor. And really, this is my passion project. I absolutely love it. This is a safe space for our instructors. These topics are not easy to talk about. And the stories that you hear from providing the training, that's hard. And so we want to make sure our instructors are feeling comfortable. So we have that safe space for them to ask questions, share best practices. But really, we just go around and we ask everybody, how are you? How are you doing? And we let them share. It's not always great stories that they have. The feedback is really imperative for us to continue to develop, see what other resources we're missing and we can add in to offer to all of our members. But I just think it's incredible. Associated Builders and Contractors has worked very hard to address this, especially because it is just so real and so relevant in the industry.
And if I could, I just want to brag on Haley a little bit because she is a little bit modest. She is amazing. And I think people want to become a mental health champion just to be in her peer group. Since she's taken it over, I mean, it's just exploded within Associated Builders and Contractors. And she does a fantastic job with making, I mean, we do it virtually, but it feels like you're in the room with her. And so I just want to give some kudos to Haley and all that she's doing with our chapters to really make sure that we have complete that vision of having at least one mental health champion at each chapter. And she also came up with these vests. So yes. We have our safety vest for our mental health champions, and it's purple because that's the color of suicide prevention. And that was one of her ideas that she added to it. And I just feel like it's, Greg has the passion and drives us to have that passion and to influence people and then to impact. So it's just wonderful having Haley on this team and just doing the work that she's doing. She's amazing.
Thank you, Joe.
Haley, did you see that coming? I mean, what a huge word hug you just got.
I know. I'm so appreciative. I really appreciate that, Joe. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. Very, very cool.
I also will mention too, with the vests, we made wallet cards that have a couple of the suicide warning signs that you can look out for, and then access to resources. So we pass these out any chance we get. And we actually just had a Total Human Health exhibit booth at our annual conference, and we were able to pass those out to members that stopped by.
If people want to learn more about ABC's Total Human Health, and they want to research this more on their own time, where would you steer them?
So we do have our toolkit. It's abc.org/THH, Total Human Health. And this is a 70-page document. As I said earlier, this is where our members contributed what they're doing, what works for their company. And then we bring it into a format, and we actually had some consultants help us piece it together to make sure that all of it made sense. And that was under Greg's direction. And now we give it away for free. It's on the Free Cyber website. You don't even have to be an ABC member to use it. We encourage everyone to go onto our website and download the 70-page document and use it. There are several activities. It helps you generate toolbox talks, and it's just an amazing resource that comes from our members across the country.
I was curious. So I know you guys have your STEP program, and that's based on safety. Are you going to incorporate the Total Human Health into this when you're applying for the STEP award?
It is. Beginning this year, there is one of the key components that is dedicated to address total human health. We call it the Total Human Health Key Component, and it gives you a list of things that you can work your way towards to make sure you're addressing this. I want to reinforce something that Joe said a moment ago. This is on the free side of our website at ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors. We don't consider this proprietary to our association. We believe this is a priority for our industry. And so therefore it's all on the front of our website. So if you don't know where to start, back to your point a moment, Chad, if I don't know what button to push, go to the website, click to it, download it. There's tools, resources, even an assessment out there that you can look at and kind of organize yourself and what you need to do to really make sure you're addressing this topic. And it's not just the flavor of the month or the book of the week. It really becomes something that is substantial inside of your company.
Right. So just to kind of build on that, Greg is also being a little bit modest here. He is very passionate about this, a nationwide speaker, and he helped found and is the immediate past chair for the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention, the CIASP. And the needs assessment is a fantastic place to start. So if you're an executive or a manager or a leader at your company, and you're trying to figure out, like, how do I start this conversation about in mental health in the workplace, would highly recommend going to our partner CIASP and downloading their needs assessment. If you go all the way through it, by the end of going through the needs assessment and talking to the different people that it encourages you to talk to and the conversations that it has you, that it drives, you'll actually have an action plan. So you have an action plan and you can implement it. And this is from it's from the entire industry, not just associated builders and contractors, but the entire industry.
Their website is preventconstructionsuicide.com. Again, preventconstructionsuicide.com. A lot of rock stars in our industry have coalesced around this topic. Members, this is bipartisan. This is labor neutral. I don't care what color Kool-Aid you drink or love. I'm about saving people's lives in our industry. And that has been the mission of CIASP from its initial founding just over 5 years ago.
Awesome. This is great. So, one of the things that I found myself saying a lot of times, and I hate this myth: work is work and home is home. It's just not true.
That's right.
It's just not true. You're not two people. You're just the one person, and this happens to be where you're spending your time. And we should be thinking about taking care of all of that, together as a community, as a place where we are trying to take care of each other. So I think that's wonderful.
It's very true, Chad. And again, here's the thing: fear and anxiety will be the biggest hindrances that they have as leaders to implement this program. But let's be very, very clear. If you can get past that portion of it and call it what it is, don't be afraid to use the word suicide. It's real. We seem to whisper it in the corners. It's like the word cancer in the 70s, right? And people don't commit suicide. People die by suicide. Let's change that narrative about mental health. You said again at the top of the show, when we think about mental health, we go to the extremes. Bipolar, schizophrenia. The vast majority of the population today is walking around anxious about something, paying a bill, a parent, a son, a child, or they're depressed about the outcome of this. Those things in the middle, those are mental illnesses. And all you got to do is be distracted for just a moment, and you can injure yourself in a workplace. Or that proverbial saying about the straw that broke the camel back, one more thing, and you take the route of suicide as your solution.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And just to kind of, why are we so fearful of that, right? So you might be an HR person, you're thinking, oh my gosh, how do I even start this conversation? Or you might be the corporate attorney for the construction company, and you're thinking, we need to stay far away from this whole mental health thing. Well, the 15 questions that HR people and corporate attorneys are most fearful of were asked and addressed in this document, a white paper that came out last year. Also from one of our partners, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, AFSP. They worked with the Workplace Suicide Prevention Organization and developed this document that is a white paper, and it asks those 15 questions and it gives you the answer. So if you're an HR person or a corporate attorney, that's where I would encourage you to start.
Great. That's awesome. I have I want to channel one question from we've gotten so many nice comments, just congratulating the work that you're doing, making sure that you understand how important it is, and then also commentary in general about hey, it takes courage, let's do this together, and things like just some really really nice comments from the audience that have come in during the course of the show. One, it's not formed in a question, but that I'm going to form into one because I think it's useful while we have your presence here, and then we'll wrap up because I know we're right on time. Is Heath basically says, hey, put yourself in the shoes of the worker. The worker's wearing the hard hat. You try wearing a hard hat for 8 hours a day. You try wearing foggy goggles for 8 hours a day. You try wearing all this type of stuff, and they're being yelled at and policed, and they're feeling uncomfortable with all this PPE. How can we sort of simultaneously balance this mental wellness and creating conditions where they feel discomfort and frustrated and also policed and yelled at through the course of safety is a complicated thing, right? Where it's stay safe or you're in trouble. And then we'll be really mad, but then we also want you to feel good. It's like, how do we do all that?
From a leader's perspective, is how can we? Well, let's be clear about this. Don't expect immediate results. This is a long game. This is not a quick fix. And if you've got a workforce, and again, the majority of the construction companies in America today have less than 50 employees. So they are small, kind of static. They're not these leviathans that we seem to think about, so the reality is get to know your people, and you may have to work really, really hard at that, because there's going to be established distrust, because everything you've ever done is correct them. You've never given them the positive and said, I care. And so you've got to be willing to step out there, take the lead, and stay in it for the long game until those employees turn their eyes to you and say, yeah, boss, I got an issue. I'm struggling with this. I go across the country. Last week I was in New York City, and I won't tell you the companies that I with. I made 3 presentations with 3 very large general contractors in New York City. And the way I do this presentation is I just pick an individual out of the group, and I have them come up to the front. I say, listen, I don't know anything about this person. I've never met him before. I'm going to make up a bunch of stuff about them, and I want you to feel like what they feel. And so I begin to talk about this individual that woke up this morning that got a call from their mother that was in the emergency room, but he had to go make a paycheck, or I missed the subway and therefore I was late getting to my assignment. This, that, or the other. And, as I began to do this at one of the events last week, one of the persons just had alligator tears rolling out of their face. And they're going, dude, it's like I know you all my life. These are exact same things that I'm facing every day. And the leaders in that room, I saw organically move toward that person in a very, as Haley said, a caring way. It radically changed the way they looked at mental health, because they knew there were people, and it was not by design. Let me be very clear about that. It was just something that happened that organically. If leaders are going to go into this thing and they want to make a difference and they're committed, they're going to have to stay in it for the long haul. They're going to have to build that trust, because everything up to Joe's point when he started as a young compliance officer was OSHA was all focusing on the things you're doing wrong, not how can I help you get better at doing those things. So that's how we do it, Chad. That's what we've got to do.
I love it.
And one thing I just want to throw in, one thing that we've seen is one of our ABC members actually hired somebody, and their job is strictly to go on the job site and check how happy the workers are. He just goes around, he asks how they're doing, and he does that every week. And I thought that was incredible. I was asking him, I was like, how do I get that position? Because I would love to go out and just ask around.
Just be the purveyor of goodwill.
Yes. But then through that, they created workforce chaplain groups. So they hired workforce chaplains, and there's slotted times that their employees can sign up and go and talk to a chaplain. It's completely anonymous, and they're not docked for being away from their tasks that day. They have given them that freedom to feel comfortable to go and talk to somebody.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
These are things you can do, and there are bounds to what you can't do, and there are things that you can do, and there's always something you can do. And so I appreciate your collective answers in that. And Guys, this has been an awesome conversation, and it needs to come to an end. We're bumping into time here, and I really appreciate the three of you coming to join us. I know Stacy and I have been excited about this conversation, and it lived up to and surpassed my my hopes in terms of the value to the audience. So thank you for being on. I also want to say one special shout out to Joe. Joe, there are few things that help people's positive sense of self than recognition and words of affirmation. In our very short time together on this show, you found the opportunity to do that on 3 or 4 or 5 different occasions to recognize just the people in this little box on this window. Thank you for practicing what you preach and for really, setting a standard. That was cool.
Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Stacy, that was awesome.
Yes, much needed conversation that we have to continually to have for sure.
I'm definitely feeling personally inspired to play whatever little role I can play in that with the people that I have a chance to interface with. I don't think I ever put it in my, what's the right word? Like I feel like it's not my responsibility, but like it would be inappropriate, and I'm actually coming away from it feeling very differently, like the exact opposite. Like it would be inappropriate for me to not do
right
that.
I agree.
All right, Stace, what do we have coming up next week?
So we have our last episode next week with Zach and Scott, and we're talking about veterans in the construction industry. I think you had a chat with them.
Yeah,
recently.
I did. Yeah, they're great guys, and yeah, I think have a similar background. Both veterans, both construction people, and both doing very different things, but also running a podcast called The Construction Veteran, and something that we can definitely dive into next week. I'm looking forward to hearing the veterans' perspective, and you know what, a little tie-in, interesting enough, into today's topic, which is military veterans' mental wellness and the suicide rate is very concerning. Maybe something that we get a chance to talk about with those guys as well.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, last episode next week, and then
last episode of the season, not ever. Stace, don't
now
worry,
we're actually
people.
all booked up for fall, so we have all our guests squared away, and then we take a break, and we'll come back in September.
Yeah, that's right. So join us next week for live, if you can, for the last episode of the season. And if you you or somebody that should be a part of the show, or if you just want to subscribe to the show and make sure that it gets on your podcast feed, be sure to go over to the morninghuddleconstructionshow.com, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe on your platform of choice, and spread the word. Send that link out to your friends and say this show doesn't suck. And we would very much appreciate it.
All right.
All right. We'll see you guys soon.
Next week.
See you, Stacy.